out. You heard this, our robotic friends tell us recordings in progress. We know recordings in progress. So I'd love to just go around. If you can share just your name, and I think we can just do like a little popcorn style, since I presume you all know each other to some extent, so you can call on each other. Just your name, what your pronouns are, and as educators or learners, what your experience has been with Sefaria thus far. And I would say probably keep it to like, just because of the number, we have a lot of people here, which is great. 30 seconds or so a person. So Cheryl, you were here first. So would you mind just introducing yourself, your name? Well, I guess you have your pronouns in your name there, and just your experiences in Sefaria as a professional or as a learner.
So I'm Cheryl, and I'm a Gesher student at AJR. I'm from Toronto, and my experience has really been as a learner, and looking up texts from that other people have directed me to. So I'm dying to learn more.
Great. Do you want to popcorn it to somebody else? Or if it's easier, I'll just go through since I have the list here. So by that, Jerry, will you tell us just your name and your experience as a learner or as a teacher on Sefaria?
Hi, I'm Jerry Blum. I'm he, him, whatever. And I have used Sefaria successfully and lovingly for the past few years. I need to get better on putting together my own pages and stuff like that. But I love it, and I love everything that you add to it each time and so on. So I've been using it as a student and as a teacher. So, kol hakavod, it's great.
Great. Sounds like you're using the library as a student and also working on sort of producing materials as well, sharing your Torah with Sefaria. Great. Thank you, Jerry. Liz, would you mind sharing?
Hi, I'm Liz Orenstein. I'm a rabbinical student at AJR. I've used Sefaria primarily as a student, looking up texts and so on.
And what does looking up text mean, just so I can sort of imagine what that means?
Well, usually Torah, verses of Torah, but the other day I did a search for text having to do with disabilities, and I was able to do that. I didn't know I could do that, so that was a nice surprise.
Fantastic. Thank you, Liz. Andrea.
Hi.
Just your name, maybe what school you're in, and how you've been using Sefaria, if at all, as a teacher, as an educator, as a learner.
Yeah, my name's Andrea, Colbo student, and I've used Sefaria a little bit in teaching Sunday school classes, like looking up pages that other people so wonderfully put together so that they're already there for me. That's about all I've done. I do want to learn how to make my own pages. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. And next on this list here, I have Brian.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not visible, but I am at the dinner table with my sweet family, and Sefaria is a part of my life, my everyday studying and preparation as a chazan for a congregation in Great Neck, New York.
Thank you, Brian. And just because we haven't worked so much with Cantorial students, I'm curious to hear when you say like preparing you, like what does that mean? Like I can imagine if you're a teacher or an educator, how it's helping you, or as a rabbinical student, but what does it mean to prepare you as a Cantorial student?
I'm saying it prepares me as a chazan in my everyday process of being able to share texts with congregants, to be able to study and sing through texts, to have immediate access to all of the Tanakh and to engage with it and teach with it. It's been great.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Carl, did we get to you? I don't think so.
Hey, I'm Carl Sayers. I'm in the Cantorial program. I've used Sefaria for all sorts of purposes in Talmud classes and Bible classes and just looking up all kinds of references. I haven't yet gotten to play with your API, but I'm really interested in that. I'm a software developer by profession. So I have some interesting ideas for some multimedia master's process, master's thesis, and possibly some sort of dynamic live searching with Sefaria might be involved with that. So I'm real curious to learn more about that.
Please, please. We love ideas, and we have these like competitions and contests and fun for developers. So, but happy to talk to you offline. Dana or Dana.
Shalom, Ken Dana, but it's
Dana.
fine, Dana as well, whatever. I use, for the last 2.5 years, I use Sefaria, and I think I'm getting better. I even, for the last year, I created the sheets and also for my own learning and for teaching. And I looking forward to learn more.
Great, thank you, Dana or Dana. Mashallah. Gail.
Hi, everybody.
There you are.
Gail. I, as she, hers. I've been using Sefaria for Daf Yomi, reading the Daf Yomi when I don't, when I have the time and when I don't have the time, reading other people's summaries. I also used it, I'm in the Rabbinic program, and I took the 6 sessions of Talmud, and I would compare Sefaria to my translations after I spent hours translating and figuring things out just to see how I did. And that was always fun. And I like to just every once in a while go through the pages that people have created to see what text they found for different themes. And I always find it fascinating what people have found and what people put together in those themes.
Great, amazing. What I love, I mean, I love what everybody's saying, but what I found interesting about yours is that you've actively tried at times to not use the translation and using it not just to find text, but to sort of check in on your own learning and how you're doing, which is great. Thank you, Gail, for sharing.
Thank you.
Let us see. Oh, it's funny, my list keeps jumping out here. Kitty Hoffman.
Oh, yes, hi.
Hello.
Let me see if we can get some video going. Oh my God, it's terrible. Never mind. I'm having computer problems today.
Not a problem.
Yeah, I gather the topic is how we are using Sefaria.
Yeah, and which program you're in at the AJR?
Oh, I'm a rabbinical student. And I mean, I just use it all the time for all kinds of things, often just as a shortcut because it's easier if I'm sitting at my laptop than, you know, standing up and going into another room to get a chumash or something, which I know is, you know, cheating, but there it is. I mean, it's all right there. I also use it for Talmud very much in the way that Gail suggested. And I use it quite a lot when I'm preparing my Torah learning classes. I have a Torah learning group in Montreal where I live. And the resources for that are really quite extraordinary. So, you know, that's the main things these days, but I mean, it's a moving target, changes all the time.
Great, thank you, Kitty. And I should say that in today's session, we're going to focus around like skills, some things which you might look familiar and some things which will probably not look familiar. But in our next session on Wednesday is going to be about pedagogy and thinking more intentionally about the source sheets we make, and maybe why do we make source sheets, and are there ways to teach even beyond source sheets, on Sefaria. So we'll talk about teaching on Sefaria, but we are going to explore some cool teaching use cases today as well. Joseph, you are lit up and you are next on my list. Can you just share a bit your name, what program you're in, and to what extent you use Sefaria in your personal life?
All right, my name is Joseph Berrios. I am in the Rabbinical program. And the way I have used Sefaria as a learner, just like Gail, I have used it to validate my translations. And especially last trimester when I was taking the Intro to Mishnah class. And in addition, I have used it to get text of the Mishnah with the Nikud to help me with reading and translating the Mishnah text.
Great, and you're highlighting something I'll bring up later, which is that you're able to change the versions of text and see with Nikudot, with not, without with vowels without, with trope without trope. So depending on who your audience is, or if you're the audience, sort of what you're looking for in that moment, whether it's practicing Hebrew, practicing reading, whatever it is, it's available. So that's great. Thank you, Joseph. It's always good to know how are people using it, because we don't like look at all these things or know everything. Let us see here. Lori Weber.
Hi, I'm Lori. I'm a Cantorial student, she, her. I basically use Sefaria for looking up things. You know, I'm not, as my kids know, I'm not very computer literate, and they make fun of me all the time. And your teenagers know a lot more than you do.
You're gonna know about more. You're gonna know more about Sefaria after this than they do, though. I hope. So
all right, I can't wait. I can't wait to show
them. Dish
them.
it back.
But it's basically also, you know, if I have something, a question, a topic, I just plug it in and just look up and see who said this, who said what, and I have some information. So I'd also be interested in knowing how to make the source sheets and, you know, and more information. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lori. Just a couple more here. Let's see here. Rachel, did you go?
No, not yet.
I know you're the second one to appear, so I'm sorry for you being a bit last on my list.
No problem. I am Rachel Posner. I'm a rabbinical student, she, her, and I, like a lot of other people, I use Sefaria inside and outside of class, you know, to look up text, to read text, use it, you know, for the work. I just started a fieldwork placement, so if I'm going to give a Dvar Torah, or even somebody else said, you know, it's just easier. It's just a very, you know, now I'm just reading more text on Sefaria. I also, I do create source sheets if I have the opportunity to teach something, or I've actually created source sheets for class assignments for AJR. And one thing that I really love about Sefaria is I love the topics and searching within topics. But I have one question. Is this a time where we could ask a question about that?
Go ahead.
I find that I do, let's say I wanted to search a topic, like we were just talking about demons in Shabbat liturgy. And let's say I put in demons, and then I get a whole bunch of sources. And then I click on one of the sources and I'm studying it. And then I want to go back to the other sources that came up when I searched demons. And I can't seem to do that. Like I can't.
It starts at the top, you're saying.
No, like once let's say I've clicked on something and, you know, there's a Mishnah and I clicked on it and I read it. And then I want to go back to see what the other sources were. I can't seem to get back to those other sources. I have to start over again.
Right. So when we do topics, we'll get there and we'll see,
Okay,
see if we can play together. Amazing.
Right.
Thank you, Rachel. Perfect. I think I have next, I have Zach and Turia. Is that it? And then Professor Prowser, but I think Professor Prowser is not in. I'm not sure. Yes. So what is it? Zach and Turia. I think you're the last two, or are there others that are remaining? Gail, you went, yeah? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, perhaps Turia and Brian are multitasking, and that's okay. Everyone can multitask. Shall we jump in? Can I get like a little, shall we jump in? Okay.
Zach didn't get to.
Myself.
Oh, Zach. Wait, where's Zach? I'm looking. Oh, wait. Oh, I was like, I mentioned your hat, so I assume you went. Okay, Zach, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Zach in Ottawa, Canada, he, him, and I've been using Sefaria for several weeks now. Pretty new at it, and mostly been using it for reading and kind of exploring in the true ADHD tradition of, ooh, there's a link to click on. Ooh, I'm gonna go read that one.
Amazing. Great.
Oh, and I'm a second week rabbinical student.
Wow. So you got so it's your second week of rabbinical school. Let's give a little round of applause here. And you've been using Sefaria since even before rabbinical school, apparently. You said a few weeks. So wow. You're already ahead of the game. Well, first of all, let me just say, as an alum of rabbinical school, Batzlacha, as someone who likes to lead tefillah for the chazanim, but also the rabbanim in the room, Batzlacha, good luck. I hope that the next 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 10 years, who knows, many years of learning goes well. And I hope that, you know, throughout your journey, Sefaria can be there to support you in everything that you want to do. Know that we're always here for you. You can email us like at any time. We'll respond within 24 hours, hello@sefaria.org, or, you know, Lauren at Sefaria. You can just type in any Jewish name at Sefaria. Chances are someone will answer. I'm playing. But anyway, so we're here for you. We want to support you. And in that context, let's get started. I'm sharing a sheet with you right now. This is for your records, and this recording will be available to you as well. This sheet is sort of more or less has like what we're going to cover today. You don't have to look at it because I'm going to be sharing my screen with you, but I want you to have it you can look at it at any time. So just very briefly, you introduce yourself. I introduce myself a little bit as well. I work for Sefaria. I'm on our learning team, and I have the great pleasure of being someone who's used Sefaria for a long time. And every time I do one of these webinars or trainings, or I watch one, I always learn something new. So I'm excited to learn something new with you as well, hopefully throughout this. Please feel free to interrupt me at any time. Tell me I'm speaking too quickly. Enter something in the chat. I can't see hands raised right now. I can't see everybody in one view, as I'm sure you all are aware from learning virtually. But please interrupt me. Everything is good. Briefly, what are we doing at Sefaria? I would say that we are democratizing Torah study and education. We're not just a source sheet builder, although that we are. We're not just a library where you go and you sit and learn and prepare. We are that too. But I would say we're doing something a lot more. For a long time, the Beit Midrash, the study hall, was reserved for a certain type of person who looked at it a certain type of way with certain texts written by certain types of people. And we're trying to do a lot more than that. First of all, we're trying to digitize texts. We're trying to translate those texts so people who otherwise wouldn't have access to would have access and will have access to those texts. We are constantly acquiring both more traditional texts and new texts, modern texts, contemporary texts, texts written by women. We are working on raising up queer voices and Jews of color, voices which might not be in a traditional Beit Midrash currently, but God willing, would be in the future. So we're digitizing, we're translating, we're acquiring. And also importantly, as you all know, you might think of yourselves as just building a source sheet, but really when you make these source sheets public, and we can talk about sort of why or why not to do that, your voices are being empowered too, and your voices of Torah are joining the conversation on Sefaria. And so when you make a sheet on Sefaria, it's not just that you're preparing for your own class, for your own students, but actually when other people can benefit from those, your voice of Torah is actually spreading out as well, as from looking at other people's sheets if you've gotten there in your Sefaria journey. So that's a little bit about what we're doing. First, I want us to think real big before we go into the nitty gritty, which is what can you do and what can you make with Sefaria? So perhaps you've studied this text and I heard somebody joined. Welcome. I'm not sure if you were rejoining or joining for the first time, but welcome. And again, please interrupt me at any time. Hello, Danielle. Welcome. First of all, what can you do and make with Sefaria? Again, I would say more than a library, more than a source sheet builder. I would say it's sometimes helpful to look at Sefaria as raw materials. So you might know this text about the king who has a servant, he has two servants, and he gives them both wheat and flax. And one of them comes back with wheat and flax, and the other one comes back later with a tablecloth and a whole challah bread, and it's a beautiful thing. And we know that it's the one who built the tablecloth and the bread, who made the bread, that is sort of rewarded. It was taking this raw materials and actually creating something bigger, better, something unimaginable beforehand. Now, if I were to give somebody, for safekeeping, wheat and flax, I would hope that they'd bring me back my wheat and flax, not change it into something else. Maybe I'm lactose, maybe I'm, gluten-free, and all of a sudden just turn this thing into bread. Not helpful. But that being the case, seeing Sefaria as a tool to build something bigger as raw material. So I just want to run through a few creative uses that people have adopted using Sefaria. So one is, I would say, first of all, you can make multimedia sheets, right? You can make sheets with videos, with audio, with pictures, right? It's not just words. And so you can actually, first of all, you can live stream directly to a class directly to Sefaria if you're using YouTube, which is pretty cool. People have made scavenger hunts on Sefaria where, the answer you have a clue and the answer is in a specific verse or a specific Mishnah. And when you get to that verse or you get to that Mishnah, it leads to another sheet, which has another clue, which will give you another clue. So you can actually, it's amazing. And people have done bar trivia nights using Sefaria sheets as well. It's not, this is can be very fun, not just, sitting quietly learning. Other things people have done, they have made narrative source sheets. So not just a list of texts, but actually including framing, guiding questions, which is not only good for their class that they're going to give and making sure that they're, as educators, being structured, but that when other people want to learn from those as well, they're not just they're not just seeing the interesting text, but they're seeing, why did those people choose those texts? What am I supposed to learn from those texts? People have made virtual art galleries, right? Some people have made like a whole commentary on a chapter of Talmud with various artists, and on those they'll have like a snippet of the Talmudic text, and underneath it a bunch of pictures by artists that people have made their own original art, and then their own descriptions or their own explanations of what that piece is. So it's actually turning Torah into this totally contemporary interactive conversation. Other ideas, you can crowdsource sources. So you can make your sheets collaborative. So for example, I'm an educator for Moishe House, and we were doing something with the staff where basically we were doing something for Tu B'Shvat. And I'm just going to show you an example here where it was one source sheet that a bunch of people contributed to. You can see, I don't know if anyone knows Zoe Jick, but Zoe Jick added this text. Then Micah Lapidus added this text, and Jeremy Borovitz added this text, all into one sheet. And it's not, I created the sheet, Lauren Berman maybe created the sheet, but many different people are contributing to it. So you can actually crowdsource sources. There's a question, what are we celebrating on Hanukkah? And so somebody, just posted on Facebook, what are we celebrating? Posted this link, and all of a sudden you have like dozens of people from all around the world adding their favorite Hanukkah sources that explaining what are we celebrating. So you can actually crowdsource sources, whether that's inside of your school, maybe you're looking for help on something, or in your own communities where you want to, with the community say, hey, please post your favorite Tikkun Olam sources, and here's the link, and here you go. Other things rabbis and cantors have done, putting sermons on Sefaria. You can write out sermons on Sefaria. It's not just, adding a text here and there. So we have a whole collection, for example, of the High Holidays sermons from 2020. Which is a very special time where things are very timely. The sermons are of course, related to COVID, most of them, and it's almost like a time capsule of sorts. And so you can actually write essays in your homework assignments if you wanted to on Sefaria. Other things you can create collections. So maybe you're teaching a series, for example, on let's see here, like Jewish Food for Thought, the animated series by Hanan Harkol. Right, where this is like a series of classes he gave, right? And here are just a bunch of this is all part of like one collection, right? One collection of texts. So if maybe there's many people have given, maybe something on slavery in Judaism, and it's like 4-part series. You can organize it like that on Sefaria, all in one thing. There are a lot of other things you can do. We have recordings of Parshas. So if you wanted to learn how to lane it, we have that. You can create Haggadahs there's a lot you can do on Sefaria. I just want to sort of show you here that Sefaria, you can do a lot, right? There's a lot you can do if you want to think sort of outside the box, right? But you don't have to, right? You can. And I just want to highlight that there's a lot you can do here with Sefaria beyond sort of the quote unquote traditional learning and teaching, as amazing as that is. And that's what we're going to focus on right now. So first of all, let me just pause and see were any of these sort of ideas. Also, you can learn in Chavruta on Sefaria. I don't know if you know that there's a video chat function on Sefaria, which is really cool, where you just send somebody a link, and then all of a sudden they appear in the corner here with their video, and you're talking to each other on the text together. So a lot of cool things. Was any of this surprising to you? Did you know most of this? Does this kind of make you think wow, there's a lot to work with here? Any sort of initial, a couple, comments before I go ahead, and you can just speak out. Of course, be aware of how much space you're taking up, but speak up. You don't have to raise your hand or anything like that.
It seems amazingly creative to me. I love the creative possibilities that are here that I had no idea about. So it's awesome.
I didn't know you could do all this either. I'm amazed.
Right. Just a little taste just to see really go ahead, sorry.
Has there been any thought to adding Chazanut to Sefaria?
So when you say Chazanut, what do you mean by that?
Digitizing all the works of Alter and Kachko and lots of other composers, and hyperlinking them and cross-referencing them the same way as rabbinic texts.
That is beyond my pay grade, and I like it. That's great. I want you to email us and to ask us this question with those names that you mentioned, which I'm unfamiliar with. I will be totally candid. But we are always looking for, I mean, I think Sidur, for example, Sidur and Machzor, anything related to liturgy is like the next frontier and like what we really need to be working on. But, linking the
Like to be able
Sidur.
to take to an online Machzor, click on any phrase in the middle of some
where it
text,
appears.
and up pop five compositions.
Totally. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I'm glad I'm recording this because I'm going to remember now to bring it up. Great. Well, I want us to. Oh, Cheryl, you look like you're about to say something. Unless I'm making that up. I'm making that up. I make up things sometimes. It happens. Okay. I want to go into some Sefaria skills now before moving ahead. As we move ahead. And I want to start just like I did before, with a text, right? Because I love Torah study. I love Torah text, like the wheat and the flax. Want to start us off with a text, very basic from, let's see, where is it here? Seems to have disappeared here. Here it is. From Mesilat Yesharim, from the Path of the Just, however you want to translate it. It's a work of Musar literature, which I'm partial to. And in the introduction to this important work, Mesilat Yesharim, he actually says, the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato says, by the way, what I'm going to tell you, you might already know it. It might be obvious to you. And sometimes the things that are right in front of you the whole time that you think are so obvious are the things you're most likely to forget, to overlook, right? And I'm going to say that for some of us, some of the things I'm going to say are going to be a review, and you might be like, oh, wow, but like it was right in front of me and I didn't notice it. Others might be like, everything is new to me, and that's amazing. So I appreciate that we have like a diverse, sort of array of experience here. Yes, Joseph, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but I have two questions. First of all, will there ever be a consideration to have Ladino sources and also to have Sefaria in Spanish?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Spanish, and we do have Spanish translations. I don't know if you know that. Fairly certain. And Ladino, I mean, I think Judeo-Arabic, Ladino, sort of non-English, non-Ashkenazi, yes, and yes. It's all a matter of, which text can we acquire, and also like, can we get our system to accept the different characters and linking? So yeah, it's definitely something we've been thinking about.
And the second question I have is, will you guys ever consider having like a client for both Windows, Mac, and Linux? So in that way, all the sources from Sefaria can be downloaded offline. So
you can download sources. You can download the sources offline, actually. In every single text you'll see in the sidebar, before we sort of go ahead here, you'll always be able to see here. Let's see, is it in advance? Or is it not in advance? I think in about this text, maybe you can always see at the bottom here, you can download the text. So I'm not going to go through the details of downloading it, but you are able to download alt text offline. But yeah, in terms of all the different operating systems, all works in progress. Let us, here's what I want to do. I want to first sort of start us off at a high level, sort of 30,000 feet. Like if you enter Sefaria, like where are you? Because as much as we want to be newcomer friendly, sometimes it is like a little bit difficult to use Sefaria, like admittedly. So I want us to kind of explain how everything works. And first of all, we have actually redesigned everything on Sefaria to have as many explanations in English as possible. So, if you just started using Sefaria a few weeks ago, you won't know this, but it used to be a different design, different layout. But now, for example, on our homepage here and the text section, we try to have all the different, descriptions. What's Tanakh or what's Tanakh, right? Someone who might not know, whether you're a rabbinical school student or not, we want to make sure we have as many descriptions as possible. So sort of a high-level tour, we have 4 different sections here. I want you to keep your eyes on here. Sorry, someone say something? Okay. So we have texts, we have topics, and we have community. So texts really is like the stacks. If you go into a library or Beit Midrash, you're in the stacks here. So like these are where you're going to find all the primary sources. Then you have topics. And this section is going to have thousands of potential topics-based learning. So if you'll notice here are just like these are like the categories that we have, right? Talmudic figures, social issues, life cycle, prayer, right? If I click prayer, I'm going to see different things. Al Hanisim, Aleinu, Birkat Hamazon, right? Blessings, right? Maybe I want to learn about texts on, like, what texts are there about blessings? I'll click blessings. And it takes me to a whole page where I'm going to have a bunch of sheets and sources related to blessings. We're going to go into this more deep depth in a little bit, but like, this is like, if you know, I don't know what text I want to study, but I know what topics interest me. This is your friend, if not your best friend. Then there's community, and this is where a lot of you come in, which is where we actually highlight text that our community has created, in real time. Every day we select a different thing. So there's always going to be something related to the Parsha. There's going to be something related to the calendar, Shemitah year, right? Something related to Talmud, right? In general, these are all going to be something related, something that is accessible to people, with translations, with guiding questions, not just like a whole list of texts. And then there's, if you scroll down, remember we got here by clicking community. If you scroll down, you can just see, like, in real time, texts that are being published, right? 3 hours ago, this one was done. 2 hours ago, this one, 2 hours here, right? And so you can see all these different 20 minutes ago, right? All these different source sheets that people are creating. So this is our community page, where, source sheets like yours are being added. So Targum, we do have the Targum, Joseph. So that's like the three big sort of things here. Here's the donate, because we are a nonprofit, and many of the texts that we feature were not free, especially the Babylonian Talmud in translation was definitely not free. And so, we always welcome donations. And so that's why that is there. So let's say you know what you're looking for, right? But you know what you're looking for. I know exactly the texts, right, that I'm going to look for, or the theme or the topic that I'm looking to study or to explore. So let me ask you, and just shout out, how do you typically find that source on Sefaria? How do you do it? So why don't you, for those of us who've used Sefaria for a little bit, how do you do it? What do you do? Just shout it out. You know what you're looking for. How do you find it?
Search button.
Start with a search field.
Search field. Okay, so give me something to search. What are we going to search for?
Brachot 2:4.
Brachot 2:4. So tell me, what's Brachot 2? What's the 4?
On the top of my head, I don't remember. It's just,
No, but what is it referring to?
Chapter 2, Mishnah 4.
Okay, right. So you're talking about Mishnah. So there are a few different ways we might want to go to a Mishnah, right? And so I might type in, Brachot, right? First of all, I would say always in general, when using the search bar, try to let the autocomplete guide you. And if you don't like where it's going, that's okay. But just notice it's going to give me some options, right? So it gives me this spelling, but if I were to type it with a C, it could work too, right? It can go multiple ways. So I could do Brachot 4:2. That's if I know exactly what Mishnah I'm looking for, and it's going to take me here, Mishnah Brachot 4:2. I could have typed in Mishnah Brachot also, right? Mishnah Brachot 4:2. Right? I could do a different thing, right? I could have also gone to the texts, right? And then I could go to Mishnah, and then Brachot, and then chapter 4, and then scroll down to 2. There are different ways you get it. What other things might you search for?
We could pull up the Jastro dictionary.
Okay, so let's say give me the use case. What are you doing?
So I'm looking for a word that I don't know, and then I could either copy or paste the text from another text that I have, or I could type using the little baby typewriter that you have there.
Great. So let's go to Brachot 4:2 for a second, right? Let's go to Brachot 4:2. Just I'm showing an example, just so you know, if you're trying to look for a dictionary word, right? Let's say I don't know what the word kitzara is. I don't know what kitzara is. So what would you do in this case? You would go up here. Is this what you would do? And you would type in kitzara?
I was giving another example where I would just go to the Sefaria page that says Jastro dictionary. I would type Jastro in the search bar, and then it would, it's a separate page.
Right, so I would go to the Jastro, then I would go
to the Jastro page, and then I could cut and paste a word into there or type it. That's
right.
I wanted to show that as an example, but you can also highlight a word. The way that you were helping to guide us was if I was actually in the text. In Sefaria, in Brachot, and there was a word that I didn't know, I could highlight a
Great.
portion of the word.
Yeah, so I want to show folks that in case you didn't know that, you can highlight a word in Hebrew, and it will show up on the sidebar, right? Hamidrash, it's going to show the word for midrash. And sometimes it's jastro, sometimes it's coming from a different thing, right? This one's from the Klein dictionary here. You can look here, the source, Marcus Jastrow versus the Klein dictionary, right? So you can highlight words on the spot, right? And then if there's a word you want to manually type in, you can just type it in here too. So that's something that I wanted you to see is like that words, yeah, Donna, if I'm understanding you correctly, right? If you highlight the word, it'll just show up automatically in the sidebar here. So that's something, and that'll work for Midrash, for Tanakh, for Mishnah, for Talmud. It's all there. And that can be very helpful sometimes too, especially when there's word plays happening sometimes and you want to, well, we're not going to go into that. But I want you to just see that dictionary there. So that's if you want to look up a word. Great. So let's say, so when you're searching for something, you mentioned the little guy, the little thing here, right? The little keyboard. This keyboard will allow you to type in Hebrew if you want Hebrew on your computer, or if you don't sort of have like the stickers. So you can just click here and type in something. You know, I could type in Bereshit, right? So I could use that. Right? If I'm typing, right, or I could just type in the name of the book, right? So search works in Hebrew, it works in English. And you can use the typewriter. And for some things, you can even abbreviate, right? So let's look for Deuteronomy, right? I could type in Devarim. I could type in Devarim, you know, and that'll take me to Deuteronomy. I could type in Deuteronomy, or I could type in Deut. I can type in Deut, and it would fill in the blank for me. So I could just do Deut 1, for example, and it's going to take me to Deuteronomy 1. That's if I'm looking for like a little shortcut, right? Or X2:1, right? Exodus 2:1. It doesn't know it for everything, but it knows it for something. So that's something to know that, like, you know, we are trying to get smarter and to be able to adapt. Also, something to look for is that, again, as I mentioned earlier, like letting autocomplete guide your search. And that's actually very relevant for something like this, where let's say I want to look up, let us say, let's type in Genesis. Let's see if this helps at all. Okay, so we have a few different things that show up here. Notice this, right? Some of these things might seem obvious and some of them you might not have noticed before, but there are a bunch of different icons. So whenever you have a book, this is important because if I type in something like, okay, so the book tells me that I'm going to go to that book itself, the book of Genesis, or here, the book of Genesis Rabbah, the Mishnah. The pound sign is something very different. The pound sign is going to take me to a topics page. You remember where we went over here, topics? So that's going to take me to the Genesis page in topics. In this case, it's actually going to be the Parsha page. Here, you'll notice it's like a stack. This is a stack of papers. This is actually a collection of text that some user on Sefaria made related to Genesis. So it's going to take me to a collection of different sheets. And then there's Genesis Emmanuel Gonzalez, who is a user on Sefaria, right? So if I click that, I'm going to get to Genesis's profile. And then here's Sfat Emet. So if I just type in Lauren, here, let's see what happens. A few things happen. First of all these different users, Lauren Sykes, who I happen to know of, right? And then there's Lauren Berman, that's me. If I click here, I'm going to get to my profile. And for all you rabbis and cantors out there, if you want like a sort of like a page on Sefaria, right, where you put your background, you put your biography, right? You put all the sheets that you've ever created on Sefaria. You can keep track of your own learning, your collections that you're a part of on Sefaria, right? Other people can access them, and it helps you too in your own, right, in your own sort of keeping track of all the things that you've been learning. Let's say I type in something like Chaim, okay? So here we go again. Here are the different icons, the books, right? These are all different books. This is going to take me to the topic page about Chaim. So if I click it, it's going to take me to life, right? A topics page about life. So here are a bunch of texts about life, a bunch of sheets about life, right? So you can either go to topics by going to the topics page manually, or by typing in something in here and going to this. Another thing is the quill. The quill takes me to an author page. So let's just say Rashi. My homework assignment today is find out who the heck is Rashi? And what is Rashi known for? And what are the different works that Rashi did? So first of all, here we go. Look, we have the book page, right? That's going to take me to a specific work of Rashi's. But this, the quill, is going to take me to Rashi's author page. So if I click it, I'm going to get to a little bio of Rashi. It's going to tell me a little bit about where Rashi lived. And it's going to tell me here are the works on Sefaria that we have of Rashi, right? So this tells me Rashi might be known for Rashi on Tanakh or Rashi on Talmud, for example. And then we have the top citations of Rashi, right? Many people have cited the first Rashi on the whole book on the whole Torah, which tells me that maybe that's a significant text in the Jewish canon, right? So as we can see here, I just wanted to show you that when you're searching, you can have much more effective searches on Sefaria if you just know which things to click. Now, let's say I type in Tikkun Olam, right? Tikkun Olam, or just type in Tikkun, right? Again, we have here different options, right? Let's say I type in Tikkun Olam, and I could go to the topics page, right? I could go to the topics page of Tikkun Olam, which will take me to a bunch of sources and sheets that relate to Tikkun Olam. Or, I don't know if anyone's used this before, but here, search for, quote, Tikkun Olam. So what I'm going to see when I click this is not a specific work or a specific topics page, but actually where in our canon does these words Tikkun Olam appear? Now, let's be honest, it's in Hebrew word, so it's not going to appear always so great. So let's type in justice instead, because that's going to be a common word translated. So let's search for the word justice. Now, this is a little overwhelming, I think. We have 4,713 texts that mention justice. I don't have all the time in the world. I love Torah, but not that much. And then I have 3,300 sheets that mention justice or that have justice as part of their themes. It's a little hard to deal with. So maybe I want to be more granular. I don't know if people have looked at this on the sidebar here, but I can actually narrow down my search. Maybe I want to see where does justice appear in the book of Exodus. I click here. Now it narrows down to 11 sources. Here are 11 instances. Let's see, wait, something's missing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not sure where the other ones are, but I'm narrowing down my search to where it says justice in the book of Exodus in particular. Maybe I want to see where does justice appear in the Talmud. Well, it says 358 times. It's a lot. But I bet you a lot of them happen in books like Sanhedrin, right? Which is all about, which is like a lot about, sort of courts. So, but let's hear. It appears, 2 times in the Talmud or 22 times in Barachot. Maybe we're studying Barachot as a class. And now I want to see, here are the places where it appears. So that's something I wanted to show you, which is you can narrow down your searches more specifically. I'm not sure if people have noticed that before, but it's there, it's right in front of you, and we want you to use it to the extent that you can. So that's if you know sort of what you're searching for, whether it's a theme or a topic or a specific source. And I wanted you to see that there are the icons that can really help make sure you're going to the place that you want to go. And also searching for keywords, even if they're not necessarily topics, you can do that just by clicking search for here. All right, search for life. Here are all the places it appears. Talmud or in Brachot, 123 times the word life appears. I can just unclick it and it will take me back to the almost 20,000 instances of life. We know from here that Judaism values life because it appears 18,000 times, more or less, in our tradition, at least the ones that we have here on Sefaria. So other things to notice are when I type in, right, the sources here, right, there's also sheets. So these are all sheets that have been tagged. Oh, sorry, one more thing. And maybe, Carl, this might be a question you might have, which is, how did these texts get here? How did they become associated? Or actually, no, let's do this better. Let's go to life. Let's go to the life topic page. Now, here are a bunch of texts, right? I can organize them, right? I can filter them by either chronology. So I'll start with Tanakh first, or by relevance. And so the next question is, well, relevant, who decides what's relevant? Well, you can look it up for yourself, where it says right here, there's just 3 dots. 3 dots here, if you just bring your cursor over it, it tells me this source is connected to life by Aspaklaria. Aspaklaria is a database that we've used, and it sort of has like a keyword and then like a bunch of sources that are associated with that keyword. So Aspaklaria has associated Psalm 90 with life. I'm not sure if Psalm 90 is the first thing you would have thought of as being associated with life, but hey, we're learning something new. Pirkei Avot, let's see here. In this case, this source is connected to life by Sefer HaAgadah. I believe that's from Chaim Nachman Bialik, Sefer HaAgadah, right? Sometimes it'll say, there's Aspaklaria again. Sometimes it'll say this one is connected by Sefaria users. Let me see if I can find any of those. I guess life is such a popular one that not really here, but sometimes it'll be based on what users, what Sefaria learners who've created source sheets that like this source has appeared in a bunch of texts related to life. And so that's why it appears here. And you can see that based here. Let's say I like a sheet. Let's say I like this text. Whenever you see a ribbon here, you can see that for basically all texts. You can just click here and it will bookmark it. Maybe I don't want to like add it to a source sheet. I just wanted to keep it for later. And then if I want to access my bookmarks, I can just go here, right here. These bookmarks have a bunch of bookmarks. Here it is, Psalm 90, because I just bookmarked it and it saves it for me for later. Then there's sheets. So these are all different source sheets that are associated with life. It's very helpful for all of you source sheet creators to add summaries to your source sheets. Because for example, Evan Crane here actually wrote this. While Sanhedrin teaches us blah, 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 right? So maybe I know something about the sheet even before going into it, right? A lot of people here you see don't add descriptions, but when they do, it can be very helpful, both from a learning perspective and also maybe for myself. When I come across my own source sheet, I'm like, hey, did I really make a source sheet on that? What the heck was that about? Well, now I can read my summary and here we go. So that's a little bit about topics pages. You can always look here, related, other topics that are related to that topic, right? Sources, how you can organize it, you can filter it, you can bookmark it, you can remove the bookmark, and you can see sheets. So that's a little bit about topics. Let me pause there and see if I give any questions. And all questions. So I can't see everybody all at once, so please just shout it out if there's a question. And no questions too basic. Okay, we shall keep going. I see it in chat. This is awesome. Right, thank you. I think Sefaria is awesome too. Okay, so let us, I want to cover Parsha real quick. There are a bunch of different ways to get to a Parsha. How do you usually get to a Parsha, folks in the room? How do you get to a Parsha? Yes, it will be recorded. It is recorded. How do folks get to the Parsha? Just shout it out, because I can tell you like 4 or 5 different ways. Would you prefer I just show you? Is that better? Okay, I'll show you. A few different ways. First of all, on our stacks, right, in our sort of text here, when you click here, there's a whole learning schedule, right? By the way, if you want to get quick access to the Daf Yomi, right here, right? First of all, one way to do it is just by clicking here, right? On the learning schedule, weekly portion, Mishpatim. I can do that. I could also type in here, Mishpat, Parshat, Mishpatim. Now this will take me to the topics page for Parshat Mishpatim. Now I can read the portion, click in here, and it's going to take me to Mishpatim. Another way is just to type in Exodus 21, right? So those are at least 2 different ways to get to it. One by typing in Mishpatim or Parshat Mishpatim. Another way by clicking from learning schedule. But what happens if I'm in Yitro, right? So let's do this, Yitro. I'm going to go to Parshat Yitro from last week's Parsha. Remember, here I am. Here's our, by the way, if you're ever trying to prepare me for a certain Parsha, go to the topics page and notice. Here are a bunch of sources that people cite, that are commonly, people commonly put this in their sheets, right? About the Parsha. So maybe I don't have all the time in the world to look at every single verse, but I want to look at what's been popular. Not to say what's been popular is necessarily the best and the best for you. But if I'm just sort of doing a scan, just going to the topic page and looking at the sources or the sheets other people have made related to that Parsha can be very helpful. But let's say I'm in Yitro. Now this part, I think is going to save you a lot of time in general. So let's say I'm in Yitro and I want to go to Mishpatim. Or rather, let's do it this way. I'm in Mishpatim. Okay, I'm in Parsha Mishpatim, but I want to go to next week's Parsha. How would I get to next week's Parsha? Friends, tell me, how do I get to next week's Parsha? Do I even know what next week's Parsha is?
You
Look
have
on
to
the
scroll
calendar.
down. Scroll down until you see another name.
Okay, great. That's one option. What else? What else can I do? And yes, that is true. What else can I do?
You could click on Tanakh and then see the whole breakdown.
Great. I'm going to go to text. I'm going to go to Tanakh, right? I'm going to go to Exodus, and I'm going to scroll down and go to Teruma. Great. Okay. What else can I do? That's two ways. One is I scroll down. One is I go through the library. Boom, boom, oops, boom, right, etc. What else can I do?
I don't know. Is there like a next button or something? Is like an arrow or something that you can use? I don't know.
That would be cool. Here's what it is. Here's my giveaway. Here's my giveaway. Check this out. Now, a slight detour. Whenever I click on any text, you might know this. There's the resource panel. A few things. First of all, about this text. Let's say you have arrived at a text. Maybe you don't even know how you got there. You have no idea what the heck is this text. I never heard of this person before. Never heard of this text. Happens all the time for me, especially on this Kabbalistic text. I got to be honest with you. You click about this text on any text, and it will tell you the book that you're in, the work that you're looking at, perhaps the timing, what version you're looking at, what translation you're looking at, right? So every text, if you just click on any sort of part of the text, it'll tell you in the corner, in the top here, about this text. That's if I arrive somewhere, I'm on a page, I want to know more about this text that I'm looking at, right? The Torah is beautiful. The text that I'm looking at is beautiful, but where is it coming from? So that's one way to do it, about this text. Now, table of contents. Check this out, friends. I click table of contents, and there are a couple of options here. One is by chapter, right? I can jump around from chapter to chapter. Let's say I want to go back to Exodus 1. I don't have to go to here and type in Exodus 1. I could, but then I have to type Exodus 1. Or I could just go to table of contents, and anywhere in the book I can jump to Exodus 1. Now, I want to go to next week's Parsha. I don't want to be in Mishpatim anymore. So what am I going to do? Right here. They're all right here. I just click here, Teruma, in the table of contents. And here we are. That's it. And also what's cool, and by the way, I learned this today. I did not even realize it until 2 hours ago, that whenever you're on any verse, look, you see it jumped. Watch. I'm going to go up a little bit more. Let's see. I'm still Mishpatim. Boom. Look. It tells me what Parsha I'm in right there and there. I had no idea. I literally didn't know that until 2 hours ago. And I've been using Sefaria for like 6 years, 5 years. I don't know. So, well, granted, I think this is maybe new. But, right, so it'll tell you, not only will it tell you any verse, what Parsha you're in, but you can jump around from Parsha to Parsha just with a click of the button. Okay? So that's what I wanted to show you, a very quick shortcut, which saves you a lot of time and energy. I know. I should. I know. Right, so you can jump around chapter to chapter, right? Parsha to Parsha. And you can do that also, by the way, if I'm in, Baracho. See, thank you. It fixed my spelling, right? Let's say I'm in, 2A. Remember we talked about this text. It's there. Tells me what I'm looking at. Also, table of contents. I can jump around page to page. So I don't have to type in manually. I don't have to scroll anymore. I can just click the button. It's there. So one other thing I want you to see, let's just go back to Mishpatim because that's our week's Parsha. Read the portion. Let's go here. Translations. Not sure if you've all seen this, but we have tons of translations on Sefaria. It's not just the one here. And as educators, as learners, you can choose the translation you're going to study in. You can choose the translation you're going to teach with. You can be uncertain about, is that really the right translation? Is that the only translation? So I click translations and I have it'll tell me, first of all, I'm looking at the current translation, JPS 85. There's also 1917, right? There are a bunch of Koran, and then we have different languages. We have Yiddish translation, Polish, Italiano, French, Persian, I should say Farsi, okay, right? German, right? We don't have Spanish, alas, right? But you can choose different translations, right? What is Mishpatim? Now, these are the ordinances, or these are the rules, or maybe these are the judgments. Right? How are we going to translate it? Up to you, right? Maybe I prefer the majestic thee and thou, right? So I'm going to stick with the JPS 1917. If thou buy a Hebrew slave, right? Or let's go to 85, when you acquire a Hebrew slave, right? So you can choose what you teach with, what you learn with. All here, translations. couple other things I want you to notice here. EN, English. This tells me that there are sources in this category that are in English. We do not have Kaplan translations to my knowledge. If I click commentary, first of all, 150 comments on this one verse, which tells me something already, which is this is no simple verse. Already, as an educator, this is telling me 150 comments on this one verse. It can't just be like a simple verse, right? So I might want to say, okay, well, like, let me come up with at least 10 questions, right, about this one verse, right? We can play this game, or 10 answers to one question. So if I click commentary, though, first of all, these four, Rashi, Ibn Ezra, Ramban, and Sforno, will always be at the top. Just know that. These are your four best friends. They'll always be at the top for you. They're always there. Phone a friend, they're there for you. Then it goes in alphabetical order. Notice that some of them say EN, some of them don't. This is obvious now that I'm telling you, but maybe you didn't notice it before. But this just means that the text in here, there's at least one that's in English, right? So let's say I only want to study text in English. I'm only going to find the ones that have EN. Here's another one, EN, without even going into the text. It's telling me already, EN, this one's going to be in English, right? Maybe I don't want to look at any English text. Then I could go to the ones that don't have EN, or I could click Rashi and then just click the Aleph button here and it'll make it into Hebrew. Switch back. So that's the EN button, which should save you a lot of time if you find yourself ever in commentaries and trying to figure out what's what. So that's the first three things here. That's the EN button. And I'm going to leave it sort of the rest of these texts sort of for you to sort of infer that these are all the texts that are linked, right? These are 9 instances where the Talmud quotes this one verse, for example, right? And here are all the different places in Talmud. Not sure if you've ever seen the Aleph A button right here. Again, well, first of all, here's the bookmark again. Maybe I really like this text. I'm going to bookmark it. And then if I go back up here again, it's going to be there in the bookmarks. The A Aleph button is like good for accessibility or just presentation. If I click A Aleph, first of all, I can make it bilingual. I can make it only Hebrew. I can make it all English, right? And even if it's in bilingual, I can change the layout. Maybe I want it to be sort of innie outie, going from in going to out, or outie innie, going from out to in. So aesthetics, or maybe I like the stacked version, right? Like this. You can choose what works for you. Maybe I want to make the text bigger because I'm on Zoom. Maybe I want to make it smaller. Maybe I want it no vowels because I want to practice my Hebrew in a certain way. Maybe I want to practice my Hebrew, but I'm really more focused on practicing my Torah reading, and so I'm going to not have any vowels or any trope. Or maybe I don't really mind, and I don't mind having the trope there, and here it is. So here are all these different options for how you can view your text, and when you're creating sheets, to have it copy over that way as well. So that's the Aleph button, that's the bookmarks, that's about this text, table of contents, translations. Then lastly, as for now, and then we'll open it up a bit more, is the rest of our side panel here, sheets. So for those of us who are newer to Sefaria and haven't seen this, these are all the source sheets that people like you have created that cite this one verse. And it's kind of cool. You can see like how many views something's had. It's kind of cool. You know, when you're going to be in your pulpits, a lot of congregants are just going to complain. They don't always say nice things. But when you see people are looking at your Torah, you're like, oh, wow, okay, this is good. And by the way, you can send messages to one another on Sefaria through the profile. And so that's also really nice to get to hear from people if you have a profile on Sefaria. So these are sheets that all cite that particular verse that are publicly sheets. This is something I worked on for a long time. And I'm really proud of this work, which is here are 857 articles that are not Sefaria that cite this verse. So if I click web pages, all these different websites, Aish Torah, 929, Times of Israel, JTS, OU, Jewish Standard, Hebrew College, YU Torah, American Jewish University, Lilith Magazine, Trua, right? Moment Magazine, Lair House, all these different websites, not Sefaria. Usually they have the logos. I don't know what's going on, that cite this verse. So if I click here, it's going to take me to this article, not Sefaria, that cites at some point Exodus 21:1. Then if I click here, it'll show me this verse. So this is like where you just want to see what other people on the web saying about this verse or other Divrei Torah, right? So, and if you just so you know, it's a lot of text here, a lot of options. So how do you know what's relevant? Well, first of all, let's say there are 97 articles on Aish. Well, I want to give you like a little tip here. It shows you here citing Exodus 21:1. That tells me it's actually citing this verse. Now, if I scroll down, look here, citing Exodus 21:24 through 24, excuse me. That's basically citing the whole parsha. So I know that this article is not going to be relevant for me, or it's going to be way too generic. It's not actually citing this one particular verse. Gail, send me an email. We'll get you on there if we can. So, but here, here it cites Exodus 21:1-6. Just so happens this one's in Spanish. Interesting. But this one is actually citing a specific verse. So that's a way to sort of navigate. And you will also know, based on the website, what is the type of Torah that maybe you're looking for, right? So that's, you can sort of choose which organizations you're going to look at. But just know, like, this is the most pluralistic Beit Midrash you ever seen, right? Like, you have people who are, totally secular, to people who are Haredi, people who are right-wing on Israel, people who are left-wing on Israel, all in this one space. And the one thing that connects them all is right here, this verse, this Torah, which is a really powerful image, sort of philosophically, but also practically, when you're looking for more Torah stuff. A couple other things I want you to see. Manuscripts, maybe you're interested in that. You can always see different manuscripts of Talmud, of Tanakh, right? This is kind of cool. It's the Leningrad Codex, right? If you just want to see it there. And other things that are pretty cool that we're going to go more to this later. Thank you, Cheryl. Right, we're going to look at compare text next time, where you can actually pull up another text, to compare it to, on the side and the like. Let me pause there. I can tell you more about sort of like rabbinic or cantorial personas and like the value of actually teaching your text and putting it on Sefaria and getting feedback from people and getting your sort of sharing your Torah and getting your voice out there. But let me pause there. I've shared with you a lot. I hope this is helpful, sort of like from a basic skill building perspective, and some of the things that's been in front of you the whole time you didn't even notice, but now you notice it, or like you can feel like you can use Sefaria more efficiently. Let me pause there, see what questions you have, other questions, concerns, things that you wish you could do, or can I do that thing? The floor is yours. You have me. So please feel free to share. You can raise your hand if you want, if that makes you feel better. Yes, I agree. Totally.
I hate when that happens.
Please, Jerry, ask away.
How do you begin to create a source page? Because this is sometimes it gets lost. Sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. Sometimes I have too much information. Sometimes I copy something and it goes to the wrong place.
Yeah, great. So first of all, I'm going to share this with you in the chat. These are a bunch of webinars that we've done, some more recent than others. Actually, let me do this one. This is a better one, I think. These are all, each of them has like a sheet, sort of like the one that I shared with you in the beginning, but also recordings of webinars. And actually, we have webinars that have exactly what you're saying, which is how do I create a sheet? Now, I should say our source sheet editor is in the process of changing, right? Which is the reason why I'm not going into it in depth, because it's going to change. It's going to be more like a sort of a document where you can write your own thoughts as well as the source sheet builder. Happy to share more about like building source sheets and what happens when you have too much on there. But what I would recommend, I guess, is one question. I mean, if there are specific things you're like, oh, how do I do this? I can tell you. What I will say is like, yeah, so do you have like a specific question? Like what, like this thing happens to me, how do I fix this? Or I wish I could do this thing, or I want to do this thing. How do I do this?
Oh, now you expect me to remember all of that.
No, or anything. Well, I would say like if you could be I can sort of give you best practices in creating sheets.
No, I know that in the past, before all of this, years and years ago, I had the same experience that Jerry had, trying to make a sheet, trying to take what people have put on their sheets and putting them onto my sheets, and things like that. And then how did I save it? I don't think it got saved. Jerry, you're on mute.
Yeah, and where do they go afterwards?
Right. And how do you access them again?
What do you mean by where do they go?
Well, so say I finished a sheet finally, and I said, did I click on a save button? How do I find the sheet that I made? What do I do?
So once you've saved a sheet for the first time, you've created the title. Then after, it's like Google Docs after that. Every time, you don't have to manually click save. Where does it go? Is it goes in your profile, right? So let me just log in under my own personal, just to show you an example. All right. So first of all, notice here there's a little bell here. That means either someone's followed me, or there's a new text, or I've gotten a message from someone, right? So I follow Josh, and Josh published a new sheet, right? You can follow each other to see what each other is teaching, right? If you're publishing something publicly, right? Also, you can sometimes there are messages from people, which is nice. Let me see if I can find any of them. It's been a while since I've received a message. Anyways, so here, if I go to profile, right, I can see all of my sheets, right, including those that are not published, right, and those that, if it doesn't say not published, it means they've been published. So that's where my sheets go. And then I can also put them as part of as a collection of them. So I make a lot of text sheets, source sheets for Moshe House, right? Or like I made like a Musar series, right? So I put like a lot of sheets in there, right? Like a 10-part series, right? I give a little description of like the series, right? I put, the different midot, et cetera, et cetera. So that your sheets go into your profile. And you don't have to manually save it each time, you just have to save it the first time.
Jerry, do you have a profile?
I do, someplace.
Let's see. Well, so usually it'll show up if you have a certain number of public sheets. So it might just mean that you don't have many public sheets. That could be it. I don't know. But it is common. A lot of educators do, I think, sometimes shy away from publishing their source sheets for various reasons. Oh, well, I'm a rabbinical school student. Like, I don't know if this is really rabbinical school material, like, oh, it's imperfect. Oh, my translation might be off. Oh, I might be misinterpreting something.
You know me very well.
Right? We all do it. We all do it. Rabbis are like known for imposter syndrome. It's like in the DSM, imposter syndrome, rabbinical student. Yes. Right. Like we all go through it. And yet, like, you all know, first of all, everyone's human, right? So chances are the source sheets that you're appreciating from somebody else also have some sort of imperfection, right? Or the thing about Sefaria sheets is they are dynamic. They are constantly alive and editable. So, I go back a lot of times years later to a sheet that I made and be like, oh, actually, I want to change that. And then I just change it, right? That's the cool thing about sheets is that like nothing's fixed. Nothing's fixed. It's really a Torah Chaim. It's a living Torah where you can constantly be changing and adding and modifying, your different sheets. And like knowing that like, sometimes it's just a matter of like, oh, that Jerry decided to put that text connecting it to that theme. That's interesting. I don't even care what Jerry thinks about that, but interesting. Why did Jerry do that? Or what can I learn about that theme from the fact that Jerry put it there? There's a lot that, a lot of benefits other people can sort of derive from your own sheets, but also as rabbinic and cantorial professionals, people being able to like sort of see your brand of Torah or what you're interested in to connect through that is really nice. Let me ask some other questions. I know some folks have to drop off and I respect that. Other questions though, because you have me.
Is there a highlighter option, like that where you can make a color and match things up? Or
yeah, so you can when you create a sheet. Let's just show you an example. Let's just try this. Right, when I'm creating a sheet, I actually can I can highlight something. So I'm going to edit it. Right, I can go like this. This is the right and highlight like that, right? There is a highlighter feature. It's not great and like we're sort of phasing it out. So I don't want to sort of say too much about that. But yeah, you can actually do that. And so, you can bold, italicize, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So maybe I want to, let's say I'm looking at a text here and I want to really highlight the word land, right? So maybe I'll just do this, right? Land, right? Et cetera, et cetera. So you can definitely do that.
So you have to have the bravery that you grab some text and start a sheet to be able to start to actually like highlight something, it can't just be like circling around and like on your page.
If you want to modify the texts, or sort of create something new from those texts, then yeah, you would need to create an account, which is free, and then create a sheet. But again, the sheets are not public until you make them public.
Okay.
So, I have some documents, which is a whole smattering of text, which I liked over the years, which are not public. It's not going to be helpful to anybody. It's barely been helpful to me. So that's something to think about, which is you don't need to make every sheet. Thank you, Jerry. You don't need to make every sheet public. And even once you do make it public, you can take it away. Nothing is fixed. You can publish, you can unpublish. It's really yours.
Great. So just a practical question. I know we're in the world of HTML and you want text to be able to move around for different devices, but the reality is we're still in the world of people reading Torah from a scroll. Many of the scrolls that we're reading from look like the tikkun, or we're trying to teach people spatially where the words might be. And also there's still that fixation on the daf of Talmud. People like to know, okay, I'm on the daf, I'm on the 16th line, middle word. I mean, I know you started to number. So have you considered, or could you suggest having formatting for Torah, Megillah, and for Dapim, for Talmud, so that you could push a button and then it would look sort of like a page that a scribe would write?
Yeah, totally. So I think you're definitely onto something, and we have manuscripts and images of texts, which can help with that. Now, there's a world where we would incorporate Surat Hadaf, right, and having the actual pages of Talmud as they appear. Now, I should say that the Surat Hadaf itself is sort of a new thing, right? Like Talmud wasn't always studied with Surat Hadaf. But I think more interestingly, it's important to think about why. So first of all, there's a world where we would have it, for example. It is difficult on a technical level to actually parse and to make it as such. But I think there's a question which is like, why? Like, what do we benefit from? Like what can we do with Surat Hadaf that we can't do with the current, Sefaria layout? And also, like, what's the function? I guess the question is really like, why are we learning with this sort of layout of Talmud? And can we do the same thing on Sefaria as well? I think it really just depends on what your purposes are. In the context
I'm just encouraging that we cross over into both worlds. I agree that just having access to the text, you don't need it to be in a certain shape.
Yeah.
But as leaders of synagogues, we're trying to get people to chant Torah from scrolls.
100%.
And we're trying to get people to chant the Megillah from a scroll. That if you guys invested in setting up your spacing and having that option, you could definitely have a button, and then it would still be the text that you could click on. And
that much I think, yeah, like I think there's definitely like something there that we should look into, and that we are looking into, which is, yeah, like those things which aren't like purely like learning, but ritual. And like, it's really important that Jews, not everybody's doing this during COVID. Some people are using Sefaria, using that for Torah reading, which has made things much more accessible for people. But for a lot of people, like chanting from a scroll, there's something deep about that in ways that might not come through sort of with the way that, doing it digitally or virtually. So yeah, I think there's definitely like a world where, you click here, right? And along with manuscripts, right, is also just like the scroll. And I would click here and then it might take me straight to where that verse is, right? And so I can actually practice like with a tikkun. Yeah. And we do have like here Torah readings for verses where you can click here and it will, I don't know if you could hear that, but
that's great.
Yeah. So that is there, but you're right that Sefaria isn't everything for everyone for all ritual moments. But if there is a way that we can help people practice their, B'nai Mitzvah or just Aliyah learning and reading on Sefaria, we're game for that, I think.
Good. Thank you. I know it's good. It'll be a process. It'll be something to work on, but it's definitely needed, and it's really cross movement. It really fits in your framework. The other, just a technical issue I've been having, when copying and pasting texts, the certain letters come out as question marks when they're being pasted into, let's say, Google Docs.
Yeah, if you could send me, I'm actually working on a project right now, looking at the copy and pasting function and noting all of those type of things. If you could send me an email, and my email is just with maybe a screenshot or like a screencast of you doing that, that would be great to be able to take note of.
Basically, if you take it happens almost every time on the word kol. So the cuff will turn into question marks if you and then put it in Google Docs. That's a great example. It often happens with the ayin. It's something that you alluded to also before, just to change the subject, the use of the sidurim. We need more texts. There's some missing texts, and there's a need, I think, for more Sephardi texts. From what I could see, there's some missing texts. And the other thing would, and this would go to all texts, the showing of word emphasis. So
like you would find in maybe an art scroll or a different type of siddur, which has like the
you do have it in you do have it in some in some of your siddurim. Some of the editions have like the meteg marks above, I think. But that would be amazing, because we'd like to try to learn to pronounce the words with the right stress, and all through Tanakh. It would be great if you had that available. Of course, the trope helped to do that.
I think that's very helpful advice and a request, and so I'm taking note of that, and definitely it's something to bring up with our content team. So thank you. That's very helpful, Brian.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Let me open it up also. Other folks who have questions, whether it's like a clarification question, so can you do that thing again? Can you show me that thing again? Or like anything really related to sort of like helping you use Sefaria better. I can show you in the meantime, I can show you a few other fun things if you haven't noticed them. But if you ever go to most rabbis in the Talmud, I don't know if you ever noticed the biographies of them. Have people noticed that? So if I just type in rabbi, that's Rav. So I can see Rav, here we go. So Ravina, I can either go in English or in Hebrew, right? For any rabbi, most rabbis' names, I can go underline them. If I click it, and it'll bring up their little bio in the sidebar here. Not sure if people have noticed that in Hebrew or in English. The same way you can highlight the name or the word, and it'll show you in Hebrew here, or in the translation. You can click their names as well, and it will tell you a little bit about them. Who's Rava? Who's Ravina? Right? Not Rav Matana, Abaye. Right, and then you can actually click into their own sort of a topic page as well if you want to see more about Abaye. Right. An orphan, Abaye was raised by his uncle Rabba, etc. Some sources about Abaye. So that's a cool thing to know about when you're studying Talmud, that they're not just a bunch of like random names, but actually people with stories. So that's something that I didn't show you earlier, but now that you're here, you can see it. One other thing I'll show you, which is good when you're sharing source sheets with people or text with people. Check this out. I want you to notice something. I'm going to tell you how to read this URL here. Some of you might know how to do this, but notice here a couple things. If I send you this link, this URL, you're going to see basically what I'm looking at here. But let's say you really only want them to see this text, like the text, it's like the first text here on this page. So anything after the question mark is really, first of all, the lang. So let me show you. So sheets, slash this thing here. So 363,402, that's the sheet ID. This is a 363,400 second sheet on Sefaria. 0.18 is this particular text box. Now, if I go to a different text box, like this text box here, it says 0.19, 19. If I go to this text here, it says 0.1. If I keep going down, you'll notice this keeps changing, 0.3, 0.17, etc. Which means if I send them this link, for example, right here, 363,402.13, that's going to take them directly to this part of the page. But if I want them to go only to the top, then I can just, let's say I'm here, I can just go like this. I can just delete everything to the right of the sheet ID number, and that's it. And it will take me straight to the top of the page rather than, again, straight to the top of the page rather than to a specific text box. You'll notice here it also says question mark lang equals by. That means that when somebody opens it up, this is going to be in bilingual. Lang equals by, bilingual. If I do it all in English, it's going to say lang equals en. That means if I'm going to send this to my congregation or my students, if I just want them to have the English, without any, Talmud in English or Tanakh in English, I'll just turn it into English, and then I'll send them this URL rather than this URL. And again, if I click here, it says 0.7, right? This is the 0.7 text box. And then it has and width equals all and lang 2 equals en. So that lang 2 equals en should be familiar. That's telling me, first of all, the width equals all. That's about here, the resource panel, right? If I'm going to change it into Hebrew, notice here, it just changed. Lang equals he. So let's say I want them to go with the resource panel. When I send it to them, I'll just send them this link. Let's say I want them to see Rashi on the side. I could go like this, commentary, or a Barbanel. Let's just say a Barbanel, commentator, right? Let's do an English one, right? Chizkuni. Then I could notice here, and width equals Chizkuni. That URL is telling me when they open it up, this is what they're going to see. They're going to see this text at this text box with the Chizkuni. If I open it, it'll do a different thing. But just notice that the URLs are changing every time. And so when I'm sending them a link to something, it's going to be reflected. Where they're going to go is dependent on what the URL says. So again, if I want them to go to a certain part of the page where I send it to, like I want them to go straight here on Shabbat, 2 loaves for a double portion of manna. That's where I want them to go. I want to make sure to click this, and I'll probably just delete everything to the right, lang equals by, etc. Or I'll leave the lang equals by, right? But I don't want the and with all this thing here. So this is just going to take me to this sheet on this text, bilingual, without the resource panel. And here we are. And again, if I don't want this part, I just want to go straight to the top, then I'll just delete the 0.7. And now it's just the sheet ID and takes me to the top. You can do that for anything. So another thing you could do is instead, you go to share down here. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. Is it in, where is it? Huh, I can't share. Oh, here, share, right? And here it'll share, this, same thing. I could do that too. So I just want to show you sort of like how the URL is working so that if you are sharing this with another group, that actually, they sort of arrive where you want them to arrive. Yes, okay. And I know we're a little bit over. I want to take any last questions before we call it for the evening. And for some reason, I can't see the video. No problem. Let me see here. Where's everybody? Is everyone here? There we are. Okay, now I couldn't see you for a second. Last questions before we sign off. Was this helpful for folks? Did you learn something? Is this going to make your life using Sefaria hopefully a little bit easier, a little bit more efficient? That's what I was hoping to get out of this for you. And then on Wednesday when we meet, it's going to be more about sort of looking at some of the things we did today and a bit more, and like how can these actually be teaching tools? How can we empower our learners in the classrooms by using Sefaria? But also thinking more critically of like when we're giving source sheets to people, like why are we giving them source sheets? What are those looking like? How everything that we're doing is actually an intentional choice in using Sefaria to help sort of match those goals. So think we'll call it for the evening. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. If you have any questions in the meantime, again, feel free to email me at Lauren@Sefaria. I'm going to share that link with you one more time. This actually, let me show you something real quick before you go. Notice here what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this very actively. So I just typed in AJR right here, right? Sefaria training, AJR. You can see my screen, right? Right. Notice it's, so it's going to, right now it's at 0.501, right? 501 happens to be at this first, thing here. So instead, I'm just going to send you the link itself without any direct sort of certain text box associated with it. So I just wanted to show you that live. Okay. If you have any questions in the meantime, email me. I'm available, and I look forward to seeing you Wednesday.
Is the Wednesday session the same time? It's also 6:30? Is that the
I
same?
believe same time. Yeah, someone said something. Zach, was it you?
Yeah, can we stay on for half a second?
Yeah, of course.
And
Okay,
we can
thank you.
record it, right? Just in case, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm recording it too, and we'll get it sent to you as well.
Fabulous. Thank you, Lauren.
fantastic.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, I'm just really sorry about this.
No problem.
I was just kind of distracted by a work emergency on
Don't
my
worry. No, it happens.
Is there any way that I guess I can just watch the recording? Is there any way we can set up a different time?
Let's start with the recording.
Okay.
See if hopefully school will let you do that. It shouldn't be a problem. You'll get most of it, and I'm available for any questions.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would say, I mean, you've been using Sefaria just a couple of weeks now, right? A few weeks, I should say, a few weeks, a couple of weeks. And you'll learn more as you go. I would say some of the most important things I think are like learning how to search effectively, and also knowing sort of when there are texts in English, when there are texts not in English, and also just being able to there are a few different sort of, I think, sort of really important things which are helpful for sort of, on-ramping on a Sefaria. But take a look at the recording, see what's helpful, and if there's anything that moves too fast or, you need clarification, you can reach out to me, okay? Does that work for you?
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
You have my email, right? It's there?
Yes.
Great, amazing.
Thank you.
Just Lauren, like LOREN at SEFARIA at just .com.
.org. Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, I see it. .org.
Okay. All right, thanks so much, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. It's
all right, thanks all. Bye.
Your energy was fantastic. It's really
thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go to bye.